The greatest Nintendo games of all time, in Nate's humble opinion.
Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well. The thing that I normally talk about on this channel is obviously movies. That's kind of what my channel is centered around, but I also really love video games, specifically Nintendo. There were certainly other games from other studios that I've played over the years, but Nintendo was always my go-to. Like 90% of the games that I would play were Nintendo games. While I was in high school, I was the weird kid who had a Wii U, while other people had Xbox One and PS4 at the time. I'm 25, so I was born in the generation to where, like, basically the year after I was born, the GameCube came out. So that's kind of gives you an idea of my lifespan and where Nintendo was at when I was born. However, when I was really young, like I'm talking like the first 5 years of my life, my parents couldn't afford a GameCube, so I played the Nintendo 64 first, and that was technically my first console, but I mostly grew up with the GameCube, and then the Wii, and the Game Boy Advance, and the Nintendo DS, and then when I was a teenager, I played the Wii U and the 3DS, and so these are the consoles that I grew up on. When I was a kid, my grandparents actually had a Super Nintendo, and so whenever I would go to their house, I would play it, and I'd be curious about these older games. However, I really had to narrow this list down. This was a tough list because I've played a lot of Nintendo games, and I had to narrow it down to my absolute favorites, so there was no Super Nintendo or NES games on this list, unfortunately. This is also my personal list. Everyone has their preferences in video games, and so this is going to be a very personalized list. It's not the objective best Nintendo games ever. You're going to see a lot of Mario and Zelda, because those are my favorite franchises. I'm not going to do an honorable mention section of the video, because that would take way too long, but I did want to give a quick honorable mention to Flipnote Studio, which was a very impactful game for me on the Nintendo DSi. The only reason it's not on the list is because I did a whole video about it a few years back.
Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze!
The Wii U was a very interesting console, to say the least. There's a lot of things that I do like about the console, but it is pretty obvious why the console didn't sell very well. I also feel like within my lifetime, the Wii U has the worst selection of first-party Nintendo games, but there are still some really good ones. Tropical Freeze is definitely one of my favorite games on the console. This is the perfection of the Donkey Kong Country formula for me. I think this is my favorite 2D platformer of all time. It is excellent. I've played it several times. I love that they brought back David Wise as a composer. This is 2D platforming at its absolute peak, in my opinion.
The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess.
Zelda Twilight Princess. This is the first of many Zelda games that you'll end up seeing higher on this list. Twilight Princess is great. It has one of the best dungeon selections in all of the franchise. Especially Arbiter's Grounds stands out to me. I kind of love how dark Twilight Princess is as well. I feel like a lot of the newer games kind of shy away from making Zelda dark, but I like that this game is creepy and kind of violent at times. I also love the realistic looking graphical style. I think they should bring it back for the next game. One of the characters that I love that no one seems to appreciate is Zant. I thought his development was really interesting, how he goes from this intimidating guy to kind of a crazy person. I thought that was really weird and unusual, and I like that shit, Great Zelda game. I hope Nintendo makes Zelda dark again. I miss creepy shit in my Zelda games.
Super Mario Odyssey!
When Mario Odyssey came out, we hadn't had a proper sandbox-style 3D Mario game in a long time. I'm talking about the kinds of 3D Mario games where you go into levels and collect stars and you're able to freely explore an area. Mario 64 had stars, for example. Sunshine had shine sprites. Those were the main collectibles. And Mario Odyssey has moons. There's so many moons, almost too many. They have this really big area where you can collect hundreds and hundreds of moons. You can explore to your heart's content and use Cappy to control other characters. They also had stuff like costumes that you could unlock, and purple coins were another big collectible. There was a lot of collecting in this game, and it's great. It's a great game.
Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Oh, banana.
Donkey Kong Bonanza is similar to Mario Odyssey in several ways. It was made by the same team, and it's obviously made to sort of connect to Mario Odyssey, but it also feels very different at the same time. Banana gems are obviously this game's equivalent to moons in Odyssey, and there's less of them than the moons. There's still a lot of them, but not as many as the moons, and so it felt more satisfying to me when I collected a banana gem. Donkey Kong in this game also plays completely differently than maybe any other game that I've played. There's a lot of emphasis on destroying the terrain, which I found so satisfying, and it was a good way to vent out my anger at things. Even the story is really good. It's simple because it's a Donkey Kong game, but I was really into it. It doesn't really make sense with established Donkey Kong lore because there's that whole backstory where Cranky Kong was the original Donkey Kong in the arcade games, and for some reason this game, Pauline is a kid. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I got really into that rabbit hole because that's my personality. I think the explanation is just Nintendo doesn't care that much about established lore. They just want to make fun games. And that's fair. The Donkey Kong franchise has always been treated kind of weirdly. It's definitely an afterthought to Nintendo most of the time. A lot of the times he's just appearing in Mario spin-offs, and that disappointed me for a long time. So it was really nice seeing Nintendo make this amazing game around Donkey Kong. My only nitpick with Donkey Kong Bonanza is that I would have liked to see more of the older characters come back. Like, where's Funky Kong? Where is he? Why isn't he in this one? I'm very upset. Just kidding, it's a great game.
Luigi's Mansion.
Luigi's Mansion. This game actually gets like a fair amount of criticism, I've noticed. A lot of people really hate that the game is very short. While that complaint is definitely understandable, it never really bothered me that much. It's short, but to me there was always a lot of incentive to replay the game. There's a lot of secrets that you can uncover when you play the game the second time or third time. It also has a ranking system where depending on how much gold you get a better rank at the end of the game, and it was always fun to try to get your rank to be a little bit better the next time you play. There's a ton of secrets in the game that I didn't know about when I was a kid, and I discovered when I was older, and it was really cool. The best part about Luigi's Mansion to me, and the thing that makes it so memorable, is the atmosphere. This game is actually kind of dark and a little bit spooky, it's still obviously a family-friendly game, but I feel like if you were a young kid, this game could freak you out. It seems like they were actually trying to go for a spooky tone while also still keeping the game family-friendly, because it's a frickin' Mario game, or Luigi game rather. They made 2 sequels to Luigi's Mansion, and neither of them had this atmosphere. They were both just goofy, and I missed the Halloween atmosphere of that first game. I also love the character of Luigi. He's my favorite Mario character. I always found him more relatable than Mario. And this is the game that really solidified that. This is the game that made his personality what we know today.
Paper Mario, the Thousand-Year Door.
Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door is a game that was for GameCube, but for some reason I didn't play it as a kid. I played it in about 2022, I think. My friend let me borrow the original GameCube version of the game. I played the original Paper Mario as a kid, but I had never played Thousand Year Door, and so it was really cool to discover this sequel that was even better than the original. The remake on Switch also came out like a few years after I played the GameCube version, and so I was like, oh, I'll play the game again, why not? I think the remake is an improvement over the original. There's some quality of life stuff that they fix up that I really appreciated. Mario RPG isn't necessarily my favorite genre of Mario game, but I've played some of them. I've played Mario RPG as well as Bowser's Inside Story, and I love those games, but I think Thousand Year Door is better. There's also some jokes in Thousand Year Door that are kind of adult for a Nintendo game. There's some things that they got away with in this game that are pretty great. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is a very special game, and I don't even have nostalgia for it. I played it when I was an adult.
Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Alright, we're gonna take a break from Mario games now and talk about Animal Crossing New Horizons. The first Animal Crossing game that I played was New Leaf. I was a bit late to the series, and it was fine. I never fully got into it. I'm not sure why. Maybe I wasn't playing the game right, or I didn't play it at the right time, and I kind of always felt bad about that. But then I did get New Horizons, and I was fully sucked in. I have sunk absurd amounts of hours into this game. I've played it so much. I've collected every fossil and fish, and I've spent so much time building things. There was that whole Happy Home Designer DLC that I purchased, and that was fun. You got to make more houses for people. I wonder if one of the reasons I couldn't get into New Leaf is because it didn't have the same level of customization that New Horizons had, because that's one of my favorite things about the game. I'm very excited to see a new Animal Crossing game for Switch 2. I hope that happens soon.
Mario Sunshine!
Mario Sunshine. This is probably the most divisive Mario game that has ever been made. And the weird thing about it is that I kind of understand the criticisms. The levels can be really difficult and sometimes unfair. But I kind of enjoy that. There's something enjoyable about the rage and difficulty that Mario Sunshine can produce. Most of the levels in this game are really fun though, and I really like the challenges that they can present. Mario Sunshine is very unique. It feels so different for a Mario game, and it straight up removes a lot of staples that we've come to love in the franchise to do something wacky and different. One of the things that I noticed about Sunshine is that it sets up some things that would be used further in Odyssey. The blue coins do kind of feel similar to moons. A lot of the times you're just going through a level trying to look for blue coins, and some of them are in plain sight, but some of them are also, you have to go through a task in order to get one. The blue coins can be very frustrating in Sunshine though, and I think Odyssey kind of perfected that idea. Nintendo went through a phase from about 2011 to 2013 where they were churning out main series Mario games left and right. We had Super Mario 3D Land, we had New Super Mario Bros. 2, we had New Super Mario Bros. U, we had New Super Luigi U, and then we also had Super Mario 3D World. These games all came out in very close succession to each other. Those are all good games, especially 3D World, but they all felt quite similar to each other. So I remember during that time, going back and playing Sunshine was like, holy crap, this feels so different. I love how original and different it is, and I hope Nintendo takes more big swings like this.
Tomodachi Life!
Tomodachi Life came out in 2014 in North America, and I remember during that, most of that year, I played Tomodachi Life non-stop. I still play it today. I've sunk so many hours into it, just kind of observing the game and seeing what crazy things will happen next. The game is extremely weird. The developers went crazy with some of the things you can do in the game. I'm a huge advocate for the Miis. It feels like Nintendo has kind of forgotten about them a bit. They were huge on the Wii and the 3DS and the Wii U, but with the Switch, they're kind of just an option in settings, and they've been pushed to the wayside. I'm so excited for the Tomodachi Life sequel. I think about it a lot, and I'm salivating for it, but I wish Nintendo in general would use the Miis more. Not just in the Tomodachi Life sequel. I adore the game, and a lot of the times I don't try to control what the Miis do. I just kind of let them form their own relationships, and it's a lot of fun to see what happens. Look guys, it's Officer Joey from my movie that you all should watch. Tomodachi Life is possibly the game on this list that I've spent the most time with, which is weird.
Star Fox 64!
Do a barrel roll!
I love Star Fox 64. This game is so much fun. I love the cheesy voice acting. I love the Star Wars theme. Similar to Luigi's Mansion, Star Fox 64 is a bit on the short side, but what you're supposed to do is keep replaying the game and going on different routes and different levels, and that's really fun. The better you do, the higher your score is at the end of the game, and I kept trying to beat my own records and stuff like that. I've wanted a new Star Fox game for such a long time. Star Fox Zero almost doesn't count, because that was basically just Star Fox 64 again, but with terrible controls. There's so much potential for the series. I would love a new game where they have two different storylines, there's one storyline where you can play as Star Fox, and then another storyline where you can play as Star Wolf, similar to Sonic Adventure 2. I really hope Nintendo just makes a good Star Fox game again. Please don't let the franchise die. Please.
The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom.
I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to put Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild in the same spot. I simply didn't feel like talking about both of them individually. When Breath of the Wild first came out, my mind was blown. I had never played a game that big before. The world was fascinating, and I remember staying up late nights just exploring the world, and then I'd be like, oh crap, I have school tomorrow. A lot of people complained about the Divine Beasts being forgettable dungeons, and I do agree with that. But I feel like the game kind of makes up for it with the 120 shrines that you can do. Tears of the Kingdom comes out and it's a sequel, but it almost just feels like a remake or a redo of Breath of the Wild. It's almost the same game, but it's just a little better. There's more to it. I played through Tears of the Kingdom once and I did all the shrines, and I kind of just stopped playing it, and it's nothing to do with the quality of the game. I think I just played so much Breath of the Wild that I got kind of burnt out. They're both incredible games that are very addicting, but I don't necessarily want a Breath of the Wild 3. I want them to do something different with the next game.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
I grew up playing Mario Kart. I'm sure everyone watching this video has at least played one Mario Kart game. Like, come on. My first Mario Kart game was Double Dash, and then of course I played Wii and all of the games that came after. One of the things I've always noticed about the Mario Kart series is that the console games always seem to improve with each entry, almost without fail. I've tried Mario Kart 64 and Super Mario Kart, and I have a hard time going back to those games. They're really rough around the edges, just because the franchise has improved the formula so much. Mario Kart 8 feels like a perfect, refined version of that formula. There's always something for you to be doing. There's ramps that you can trick off. There's frickin' gliding, there's underwater stuff, there's anti-gravity. There's always something exciting happening on the track at all times, and you're constantly active. In contrast, some of the older Mario Kart games just feels like you're driving slowly on an open road, and it just kinda is a little bit boring. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is obviously the best version of the game. They've added so much to expand the game. But I remember playing the Wii U version and still being mind blown by it. I remember playing Mount Wario, for example, and my jaw was on the floor. I was like, this is the coolest track I've ever seen. I like Mario Kart World on Switch 2 a lot. I think it's a really good game, but I don't think it reaches the heights of Mario Kart 8. And I think even the original Wii U game, without the DLC, has better courses than Mario Kart World. Maybe Mario Kart World will be my favorite Mario Kart game once more things are added, but as it stands right now, Mario Kart 8 is the best game in the series.
Pokemon Soul Silver.
I was really into Pokemon as a kid. My first main series game was Pokemon Fire Red, and I kind of just played all the new versions from there. Ever since maybe X and Y, I've kind of just been like, yeah, that was good. That was all right. The new games aren't bad, but I really feel like Game Freak has focused on quantity over quality. I barely remember anything about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I played through the entire game. Pokemon Soul Silver and Heart Gold felt like a perfection of the Pokemon formula. You can tell the developers had a long time to polish this game, as opposed to the new games that feel like they're developed in like a month. A lot of the newer Pokemon games are so easy. Most of the time I'm just using one Pokemon and spamming the same move over and over again, and I just win. But with Pokemon Soul Silver, it still feels like there's a strategy to it. It has just the right amount of difficulty. Not too hard, not too easy. I also love how at the end of the game, you can explore an entire second region with Kanto. Why hasn't any other game in the series done this? Why is it just this one? I've never actually played the original Pokemon Silver and Gold, but I feel like I don't need to, because I've played a remake that is obviously way better.
Mario Galaxy 1 and 2.
I'm gonna put two games in one spot again with Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2. I want to say these games are the most praised Mario games ever. I feel like people are so into these games. It's difficult to say anything about it that hasn't already been said. The music, the atmosphere, the gameplay, it's all good. One of the things that's interesting about Galaxy, though, is that it's definitely linear when compared to something like Mario 64 or Sunshine or Odyssey. There's less exploration, and it definitely feels like a slower paced game, but that's fine. There's something relaxing about the game, and I think that's really cool. I also think these games actually utilize motion controls very well. There's a lot of games on the Wii where motion controls feel annoying and unnecessary, but with Galaxy, they're actually utilized pretty perfectly. There's some levels in the game where you are using motion controls to control like something that Mario is riding on. And a lot of people hated those levels, but I thought they were fun. In terms of which game is better, I would probably lean a bit more towards Mario Galaxy 2, but I basically like them both the same.
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This game had the most hype of any game that I've ever seen. I was obsessed with this game. I watched all of the directs, Masahiro Sakurai is a god, I love him. The first Smash game I ever played was Melee, and then eventually as I got older I went back and played 64, obviously played Brawl, Wii U, 3DS. And so Ultimate was bringing back all kinds of things from those games that I grew up playing, and that was so cool. Obviously it brought back every character in the franchise, everyone is here, but but it also brought back most of the stages in the older games. Seeing characters like Snake come back after he was cut out of the Wii U version was really cool, but there was also something surreal about seeing characters like Young Link or Pichu come back from Melee. Like, we hadn't seen these characters in a Smash Bros. Game for, like, how many years? Like 15 years or something? A lot of the new characters that they brought into Ultimate were really good too. Some of my favorites being King K. Rool, Ridley, and Steve. Some of the newcomers were a bit underwhelming though. Like, nobody cares about Byleth. Does anyone like Byleth? The story mode in Ultimate obviously isn't as good as the story mode in Brawl, but it's still pretty good. I had a lot of fun with it. The single player classic mode is the best it's ever been as well. It's different based on which character you play as, which I loved. Smash Bros. Ultimate is an achievement. It is still crazy to me that all these characters that I grew up with are in a game together.
The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time was my first ever Zelda game, and it is also probably the Zelda game that's been praised the most. The dungeons are excellent, the story is gripping, the exploration and the side quests are a lot of fun as well. The puzzles are ingenious, and I genuinely think this game helped with my problem-solving skills. I've played this game so many times, and I love almost everything about it except for the Water Temple. I'm not a fan of that one. Ocarina of Time kind of feels like the template for the Zelda series. A lot of games after this followed this formula. I also like that this game is really dark, like I said about Twilight Princess earlier.
The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker.
Some people might be shocked that I put Wind Waker over Ocarina of Time, but I honestly feel like this is kind of a perfect Zelda game. I love the ocean sailing theme. I still wish Nintendo would make another Zelda game on the ocean. I find it insane that people hated on the graphics when it first came out. Like, people wanted a more realistic styled Zelda game, but the graphics in Wind Waker still hold up, even the GameCube version. I do still think that Wind Waker HD is the best version of the game on the Wii U. Unfortunately, that game is hard to get now because a lot of people don't have Wii U's, so I wish they would port that over to Switch 2, but I think Wind Waker Link is probably my favorite iteration of Link. I love this little guy. He's so much fun. I think the story is one of the strongest in the whole series. This has the best version of Ganondorf that we've ever seen. Wind Waker rarely has a dull moment. It's kinda perfect, specifically the Wii U version.
Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Alright, I'm willing to admit that this is absolutely a choice that is driven by nostalgia. Smash Bros. Melee means the world to me. When I played this game as a kid, I didn't have many connections to the outside world or the internet, and so there's a lot of secrets in this game, secret characters, secret stages, that I had no idea were in the game. Smash Bros. Melee makes it really difficult to unlock characters. You have to sink a lot of hours into the game in order to get certain characters. And so there were many times as a kid where I would play the game and I thought I unlocked everything, and then frickin' Mewtwo would show up, and I'd be like, there's more characters in the game that I didn't know about? Nowadays, you have the internet, so everything is leaked online. Everybody knows every secret that's in every game. It is truly one of those experiences where you had to be there. You had to be a kid at that time in order to get this experience, and I'm so lucky that I had it. Smash Bros. Melee is packed with content. It still feels like a very large game to this day. Smash is typically seen as a multiplayer experience, but I always like the single player aspects as well. Smash Bros. Melee has a lot of single player stuff. There's Classic, there's Adventure, there's All-Star, there's the event matches. It kind of just keeps going. I honestly think I find single player in this game to be even more fun than Smash Bros. Ultimate. I also only knew about the Mario franchise, you know, Zelda and Pokemon, so this game introduced me to characters like Kirby, or Samus, or frickin' Fox. Like, I didn't know about any of these franchises. Smash Bros. Melee is the game that solidified everything that we love about the franchise, and I think I just experienced it at the perfect time. It's not a perfect game, there's obviously some things that Ultimate does better, but I would feel guilty not putting it this high on the list.
Super Mario 64.
Mario 64 was the first Mario game that I ever played. So again, there might be some nostalgia here, but I've beaten this game so many times to the point where I know the game like the back of my hand at this point. If I'm like really bored and I have nothing to do, sometimes I'm just like, oh, I'll just play Mario 64 and beat it in like 2 hours. I also grew up playing the DS version of the game, and I don't think it's as good as the original, but it's a cool twist on the Mario 64 formula. Mario 64 is another game that's so revered that I'm not sure what else I can say about it, so I should probably just leave it here.
I'm doing it manually. Even though this isn't manual, this is the opposite of manual. Alright, first try? Yeah. No.
The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask.
I wasn't that good at Zelda games growing up. A lot of the times I would play a lot of the game and then get stuck somewhere and then not beat it until I was a teenager or an adult. Majora's Mask was one of those games. It was always intimidating to me as a kid, not just because of how creepy and dark the game is, but also because of its difficulty and how different it was. It's a sequel to Ocarina of Time, but it feels completely different. It's more difficult than Ocarina of Time. There's a 3-day cycle that you have to keep reliving, and it has more emphasis on side quests and character moments than the actual dungeons. It feels so different not only for a Zelda game, but for a game in general. That's part of what made me fall in love with the game. Majora's Mask is art. The story of this game is the deepest and most complex that Nintendo has ever done. There's a giant moon that's gonna fall in 3 days, and the town is split over whether it's gonna fall or not. They're divided. They can't seem to agree on the truth, which feels so relevant to today, by the way. Just playing the main story and skipping the side quests is not the way to play Majora's Mask. You're missing out on the best parts of the game. The NPCs that you interact with often have something very traumatizing and depressing that they're dealing with, and your goal is to try to help them move on from those issues. You yourself, as the player, go through an emotional journey with these characters. Still playing Majora's Mask now, I discover new things that I never noticed before. The game is depressing and creepy, but also when you finally beat the game, there's an overwhelming sense of hope and optimism. It's genuinely been a therapeutic game for me when I've gone through my own issues. It's actually helpful to me. Majora's Mask takes the formula of a Zelda game and turns it on its head, making an artistic masterpiece. It will always be my favorite game of all time. I usually talk about movies on this channel, and while I don't have aspirations to create video games like I do with movies, they still mean a lot to me. I can't understate the impact that Nintendo has had on my life. I've even implemented Nintendo into a few of my movies, where I've referenced it and spoofed it. Even if Nintendo doesn't always make the best business decisions, they always put out games that are good to great in quality, with a few exceptions here and there. I'm always excited for what the future holds for Nintendo.
I'm not doing it.
You're not?
I'm not going in there.